Thanks for staying with us on Asset Television. This is Issues of the Moment. Today we are going to talk about certain developments that have been taking place in the Federal Capital Territory. And I have somebody here, Mr. Joseph Ome. He's a businessman, he's a real estate developer, and the MD of Evermark Realty Limited. He will help us share some light into the housing development issues taking place in Abuja here. And are we right the way we are doing it? Is the minister, current minister, doing it right, or is doing it somewhere that is beyond his limit? We will look into all these issues. My name is Sunday Ayami. Mr. Joseph, you are welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, I want you to take a cursory look into what is happening in the Federal Capital Territory now, since the coming of, especially the current minister. Will you want to see and believe that what is going on now? I know some people are complaining. Those people that have developed their lands, their certificates are revoked, and the houses demolished. Is that the right way to go?
A whole lot is going on currently in Abuja. Um, Mr. Wike has done fantastically well in some areas, and he has made a couple of mistakes in some other areas. So my assessment of um, what is going on in the housing sector and the real estate market in Abuja would be in that way. When it comes to infrastructure, we are seeing a lot of infrastructure development in Abuja currently, like we've never seen before,
Yeah.
sincerely. In the past 20, 30 years, we've not seen this level of massive infrastructural development ongoing in Abuja concurrently. Um, but on the other hand, when it comes to land administration, we've had a lot of issues, a whole lot of challenges. Um, Issues of ground rents, issues of revoking people's title, and all of that.
Arbitrarily.
So he's not getting it right in that aspect, because land is one of the biggest sources or classes of wealth. It's something that its administration should be sacrosanct. The rules guiding land administration are essentially clear. You know, we have the Land Use Act and we have various other laws governing land ownership and transfer in the country. So, but the way the minister has been going about it of late um, have left a lot of people asking questions. You know, because the most solid title for real estate in Nigeria is certificate of occupancy.
Yes.
So, if we find ourselves in situations where people question the authenticity of a certificate of occupancy, you know, or the validity, or its solidity, then we have a problem. We have a problem. So that's my
Especially those that were issued by past administrations.
yes.
A new administration want to assert their feet and maybe revoke them to
And
issue new ones.
and it certainly shouldn't be so, because government is a continuum. So a change of administration should not affect certain things, certain things like title
Titles,
documents.
documents.
Yes, so he's not getting it right in that point. But I noticed that of late, um, there has been some kind of step back. So we no longer hear issues of revoking of CFOs and things like that for in the most recent time.
But let me draw your attention to there's a particular estate, a very big estate that has more than 1,000 houses along the airport road here in Abuja. That recently, just about a few months ago, every house was demolished.
Wow.
You understand? So why do you see a situation like that? Do realtors and estate developers, do they normally come together to see if they can support any of the members whose interest is being diminished upon?
Yes, we do. We have an association called REDA, Real Estate Development Association of Nigeria.
Yes.
Um, Demolition of such a massive asset is totally wrong and totally unacceptable. I don't know how they managed to get to that point. Um, it is not right because there is a big lag in housing in Nigeria. In fact, the most recent study that has been done quoted about over 22 million housing deficits in this
Yeah.
country, and that's about 10 years ago. So now we would be looking at maybe 30 million or 40 million housing deficit in Nigeria. So if we are suffering such a deficit in housing, especially mass housing, then the little that private developers are trying to put in place, we're now demolishing it again. There's something not right about it. There's something not right about it because, okay, assuming they have a problem with their title, where was the government when they started constructing those properties? Why didn't government intervene when the project started? How did they have to wait until the project is getting to completion and we have as many as 1,000 properties before you commence demolition or enforcement? No, there's something not right about it.
Now, as an estate developer, what do you think Redan, for instance, the group that you belong to, what can Redan do in conjunction with government to make sure that, in fact, there was a time they said housing for all by the year 2020, and we have come and seen 2020 and it's 5 years away. So why? How has that? It has not materialized. What will be done?
It's quite unfortunate. We've seen all sorts of governments that run on sloganeering. We easily come up with all kind of slogans, but we never take it seriously. Oh, coming to Redan, well, Redan is doing a lot, but they can do more. Um, Redan needs to work closely with governments so that the rules of engagements and the laws governing land ownership and development will be made very clear. You know, once we get that part right, then we'll now start looking at funding. You agree with me that developing a property is very expensive. You know, so one of the biggest challenges that we developers face is funding. Getting funding from commercial banks to fund real estate development is not realistic. Currently, banks borrow at an average of 30% interest per annum. So you can imagine.
I tend to go to a mortgage bank.
Um, the mortgage banks too. I don't know what's happening in the mortgage sector. The mortgage banks restrict their lending to strictly certain kinds of employees. So if you go to a mortgage bank today as a business person, for example, it will be very difficult for you to get mortgage for a property. They prefer lending to certain kind of federal civil servants, not even all.
Okay.
They will give you a category of civil servant that they can lend to.
And depending on the age too.
Yes, and they also insist that the property must have a C of O. So these things are all issues that we are grappling with in this sector. So land administration is very important. Laws governing land administration, very important. So if there's a way that Redan and governments can come together, and even if it means creating a special funding for real estate developers, it's going to go a long way to help what we're doing. Because at the end of the day, we as private developers, um, most times we transfer the costs to the subscribers. And that's why housing has become so expensive.
I wanted to come to that because in fact, like Abuja, where we are now, the FCT, houses are being categorized according to areas. To live in Asokoro, you know what you are looking for. To live in Matema, you know what you are looking for. Even if you have the same facilities, what do you think is the is it sort of person that live in a particular area that makes or jacks up the rent or what?
No, it's not the person. It's the cost of developing those properties.
No. For instance, you develop a property in Asokoro, it's the same bag of cement that you use to develop in Nyanya.
Yes,
so where is Asokoro own?
But of course, you should know that the kind of property you develop in Asokoro is different from the kind of property you develop in Nyanya. And the cost of land in Asokoro is different from the cost of land in Nyanya. So these are the dynamics. For example, if you buy an average property in Asokoro will go for 800 million naira to 1 billion naira. So if you buy land at that cost, you'll be looking at developing high-end luxury properties. You'll be looking at building duplexes, you'll be looking at building mansions, you'll be looking at building townhouses, and things like that. But if you move down to areas like Nyanya, for example, now that's an outskirts of Abuja, and you'll be looking at doing mass housing. You're looking at doing block of flats, you'll be looking at doing maybe terrace duplexes and things like that, yes. So the nature of the properties being built in these different areas are different. So because of the cost of land and the nature of the development, of course, the pricing cannot be the same.
But again, do you looking at all this, putting them together now, and with the sloganeering that we said, do do you think at any point in time in the near future, government can be able to achieve at least housing schemes for at least 80% of the populace?
Yes, it's possible, but it will take a lot of work. 80% of the people in Nigeria today we are looking at, with the current population figures of around 200 million, we are looking at about 160 million people. So providing housing for that number of people will take a lot of work, will cost a lot of money. So at any point that government starts becoming intentional with respect to real estate development and providing housing for the people, the journey will now start. Because currently, I don't think much is going on in that sector. Um, 90% of what is going on in the housing sector in Nigeria today is by private developers. Government is not doing much. So until we get a government that is intentional and serious and understands the challenges that people are facing in order to provide shelter over their head, that's when serious talk will start and serious work will start. So yes, it's possible, but it will take a lot of work and it will take an intentional government and leadership.
Now, you see, if you estimate the sort of money in private pockets now, especially the politicians, the money they have siphoned from government, if put together, I think government would have been able to achieve that.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
so what's the way forward?
The way forward is intentional leadership and seriousness on the part of our leaders, and the right kind of leaders, leaders with integrity, leaders with intention to make a difference, not leaders that want to come and enrich themselves or just hold power for its sake. Um, we are all aware of the massive corruption in the public service in Nigeria. We are all aware. We read this in the news every day. The kinds of money that politicians cut away from their various ministries, agencies, and parastatals. Absolutely. If a fraction of that money is made available for the everyday provision of service to the ordinary man, definitely our lives will not be the same. A whole lot of impact will be made. A whole lot of difference will be made. EFCC every now and then tells us they've been able to recover so and so amount of money. But at the end of the day, we don't see where these monies are going to. I think something needs to be done about that. The National Assembly needs to look at the laws setting up EFCC, ICPC, and other corruption fighting agencies. Monies that they recover should not just disappear.
Sure.
I think yes, I think they should be something like a different kind of appropriation for those kind of monies, because those monies are not part of the budget. Um, so those monies, when those monies come, they should be targeted at specific projects. If, for example, EFCC recovers 1 billion naira, I think there should be some kind of a guideline or a rule or a law that says if EFCC recovers so and so amount of money, it should be used for so and so kind of projects. If, for example, EFCC recovers 500 million, you can say we'll use that 500 million to build 500 units of classroom. If, for example, EFCC recovers 1 billion naira, we can say we'll use that 1 billion naira to build 200 housing units for the people. And so if you tie those recoveries to specific kind of projects, different from what government does with their regular budgeting, we will start seeing something different, so that people can comfortably and easily question, yes, so and so amount of money was recovered by EFCC according to them at so point. We expect they should have done this with it. What has happened to that? Because now I think when they recover monies, they simply pay it into CBN.
Central bank.
Yeah, it goes back into the pool. At the end of the day, we won't be able to account for those monies. So I think that is not right.
Because these were monies that were already out on the street.
Yes.
And they are being mopped up.
Yes, recovered.
Yes.
So they were not budgeted originally.
So, Ms. Ume, let's assume that you are being given the task of saying, okay, suggest to government what they should do in order to reduce the housing deficit in the country, what will you start by saying to government?
Um, Government should fund real estate development. Government should create mass housing schemes. Government should make land acquisition cheaper and easier for developers. Government should create the proper templates for PPP, public private partnership with developers. This will definitely go a long way to make housing cheaper.
Now, let us come to the building materials aspect now. Part of it is the cement that we have now. Because I remember a few years ago how much we knew how much we used to buy cement in the country now. But because of the monopolistic attitude and tendencies of some entrepreneurs, government is no longer importing cement.
True.
Lafarge and a few others that are in charge, they have checked this over, but over there where they are bringing it from, it's as cheap as you can ever say. So what is the cause of all this?
The biggest challenge that importers face, importer of building materials face, is cost of clearing and tariffs being charged by customs. So the ball stops at the desk of the government again.
Yes.
So if government wants building materials to be cheaper, they can simply reduce what they charge on those materials.
Now, part of see the essentials of actually the building material. You have cement.
Yes.
One.
Absolutely.
You have Nkalagu. You have Kasemco. Why have they stopped? Then you have roads. Why has why are the Ajakuta?
Why is it not
Why
producing
they're not producing?
So
Because those are the essential materials that you
true,
need in
true. Yes, cement,
and
iron,
roads.
and then the final finishing product. So government has a lot to do. Government has a lot to do because right now we rely so much on private business people. So, and what drives entrepreneurship and business is the quest to make profits. Anybody that's going into business wants to make profits. That is the biggest incentive for going into business. So, if a businessman is not making profits, he will not be encouraged to continue that business.
Yes.
He will look for something else to do with his money. So, what government needs to do is to create a more level playing ground and encourage more people to come into business so that there will be competition. If there's competition, and if the tariffs for importation are reduced, especially for key products required for construction, of course, I'm sure it will go a long way to reduce the cost of.
Okay, look at where we are now. This place has been built and is still there over the years now.
True.
And there is no maintenance. You understand? But we are aware that they have increased the rents.
True.
You understand? So what do you think that especially you are there as a developer,
Yes.
Why punishing the tenants?
Is it really punishing the tenants?
That is because you are not developing, you are not improving on your on the infrastructure there, and you are increasing.
Okay, now that's a two-way street. The landlord and the tenant.
Yes.
The tenant has a responsibility to help check excesses of the landlord. Yes, at the point of taking up tenancy in the landlord's apartment, I believe there should be an agreement. In that agreement, there should be certain responsibilities that the landlord should periodically meet up. So, as a tenant, it's your responsibility to make sure that the landlord does those things that he's supposed to do at those times he's supposed to do them. So, maintenance of the property is a must. Now, a lot of people come up with that argument most times that this house was built 50 years ago. The cost of materials then was so and so amount.
Yeah, exactly.
But today, the landlord keeps increasing the rents.
So why is it so?
It is so because there's paucity of housing. Properties are not readily available for people to rent. So, because demand exceeds supply, naturally, what will happen? Price will go up. Price will go up. So, and secondly, like I said, private businessmen, developers, they go into business in order to make profits. So they just try to take advantage if they can to make as much money as they can, which also government has a role to play in terms of regulating some of that excesses. But currently, government cannot do much in terms of questioning what landlords charge for their properties because government is not providing an alternative. So if, for example, you need 10,000 units of houses in Abuja or in a particular city, and government provides 5,000,
Yeah, there will be
50% of
yeah,
it,
sure.
and then private developers now provide the rest. You see, there's relative parity in the percentage that each of them hold. So government can comfortably say, this is what we are charging for our houses. If, for example, government says um, a unit of two-bedroom flat should be rented for 100,000 naira per annum in their properties, automatically nobody would be interested in going to pay 500 or 600,000 or 1
For
million naira.
private,
Well, you understand? So, but because government is not meeting up their own responsibility in providing the much required accommodation for people, um, they just sit down and watch, and things are going out of hand in terms of costing.
well, before we round up, I want you to now talk about, see, advise Redan on what how to interface with government in achieving this near housing for all citizens.
Oh, good. Iran is doing a lot. They are organizing, they are regulating, they are trying, making sure that developers are registered, and the issues of fraud are reduced to a very reasonable extent. Um, they want to know where every developer office is. They want to know the people behind every real estate company and all of that. Fantastic job that Iran is doing, but they can do more. They need to find a way to work with government at all levels, federal government, state government, local government, because everybody has a role to play in providing housing. Because people live in every part of the country. People live in rural communities, people live in local government, people live in states, people live in the federal capital. So it's about collaboration. It's about collaboration and being able to hold political office holders to account. And another thing that Redan can also look at is trying to see how they can play a role in elections. Because if you are part of a politician's journey from onset, you will be able to have an input in the politician's manifesto. You will have a stronger relationship with that politician. And when eventually it gets to power, it will be easy to come back and say, we agreed on A, B, C, D. Please implement it as agreed. And if you don't, next time we will not be behind you. So because Redan can also that's playing the role of a pressure group now, for example. So Redan can start looking at that direction as well, because it's not enough to just regulate their sector. Things that political office holders should do, Redan need to go out of their way to find out how to hold them to account and make sure they do those things they are supposed to do at the right time.
What will government do now to provide soft landing for it?
Of course, regulation, regulation, regulation. Um, make it easy for developers to get title documents for their properties. Um, issues of demolition should no longer arise. Departments of development control and urban planning should be more proactive. If they are lacking staff, they should get more staff. We know the number of employment in the country, so that they should be able to cover their jurisdiction regularly with enough people monitoring developments going on. Real estate is not something you can develop in hiding. As soon as someone starts fencing, it will be noticed. So government should be able to intervene whenever any development starts, so that if there's a problem, if the title is defective, if the nature of development is inappropriate for that particular area, they stop it immediately, not waiting until people have invested billions of naira before you come and bring it down. That's economic wastage. That's the loss for everybody. So government needs to be more proactive in terms of regulation, and government needs to also provide clear rules for getting title documents. C of O, the process of getting a C of O and the time frame to get it should be clear and well defined. Then funding. Government needs to do something about funding for real estate. The way we have a bank of agric, bank of industry, I think we should have a bank for real estate. Yes, Federal Mortgage Bank. I told you their challenges. That they are focusing on a small niche.
Okay.
And mortgage banks do not provide money for developers. Mortgage bank provide money to their customers to acquire already developed property. So now that property that's already developed, the cost of development has already been built into the cost. But if you come in on the developer's end and provide them with cheaper source of funding from onset, the cost of developing that property will be cheaper. So the off-takers will pay less at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Joseph Ume,
Thank you very much.
MD Evermark Realty Limited.
Thank you very much for having me.
We look forward to having you some other time again when there are issues that concern the.
It's always a pleasure discussing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
real
much.
estate matters.
And that's how it has been until Sunday. Thank you for watching.